It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Confucius. We tend to fall into our own comfort zone because the alternative would create some level of discomfort. It may be evolution, it may be in our DNA. We resist change, and we like to stay where we're at. I like to spend some time talking about why it took me so long to pursue an MBA and how that decision has made me change as a person. I've been considering doing an MBA for over 12 years. I graduated with my undergrad in 2003 in computer information systems and entered the job market immediately. 2003 was a tough year for the tech industry. It was the height of the tech bust. So like everyone else in my field, I had to adapt. Long story short, I ended up in the construction industry as a salesperson, and I worked in New York City. Well, why the drastic change? Simply, I had to do what I had to do to survive, and I had to do what I had to do to have a job. I've been fairly successful in sales. I've done this for over 10 years now. I worked for many different organizations, and each one of my career moves was an increase in job title and salary. However, it was 2 years ago when I felt something was missing in my life. I considered myself to be successful, but I just wasn't fulfilled. A year ago, when I had my first child, my perspective on my career and life became even more relevant, as I now had to incorporate a family into my decision. When I considered going into this MBA program, I felt incapable of doing school again. I had a 13-year departure from higher education, and the thought of school just wasn't very inviting. I remember trying to make this decision 6 years ago, and I was weighing my options. I had all these doubts. I had doubts about expense. I had doubts about the amount of time I would spend. I had doubts about the kind of return on investment I would get from pursuing my MBA. Now that I've thought it through, maybe these reasons were really just excuses. And the more I thought about it, the reason I was unfulfilled in my life was because I was a procrastinator. I have some very lofty dreams of where I should be, but I had just too many excuses. I was too focused on the negative aspects rather than the positive aspects of going back to school. I knew what I needed. I needed to advance my career, and I needed a better education base. But I just couldn't get going. Ultimately, I made myself wait 13 years before I made this move. Now that I've completed my first semester, I'm glad that I did pursue my MBA. It's been a rewarding experience so far. And really, the only thing which has changed 13 years ago and now was I did make a move to pursue this. It's kind of funny actually. I was in a conversation with my office mates a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about financial reports. And I brought up a point that the footnotes in the financial reports were as important as the numbers in it, because the footnotes would give you a picture of the company's decisions and what the board of that company wanted to do in terms of a direction for that company. My office mates were actually impressed that I knew that. And I actually learned it 3 or 4 weeks earlier from my class in accounting. In summary, I did a lot of thinking, but didn't do a lot of action. My advice to you is to determine what's important in your life and then plan a course. The first step that you take will be the toughest, but it will only get easier with time. Ultimately, with these steps, you will get to your goal. Just remember that first step is the most important. So, stop procrastinating. As Confucius said, don't stop, just keep going.